I knew her for 2 years. No matter what I tried, massage wouldn't work, nothing worked. But when we got introduced to the iPods and the family told me the things that she liked, it was amazing once we put the iPod on her. She started shaking her feet. She started moving her head. Her son was just amazed. Okay, can we stop? Because now I'm getting all I'm seeing her all over again. Hi, Papa. Hi, Papa.
Huh?
How you doing?
I'm all right. Fine. Wait.
Who am I?
I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't know.
Okay, it's Cherry. How long has he been in the nursing home? Approximately 10 years. He was having seizures, and my mother couldn't handle him at home. Of course, it affected me greatly because he was always, fun loving, singing, every occasion he would come out with a song, no matter where he was. I remember as a child, he used to walk us down the street, me and my brother, and he would stop and do singing in the rain. He would have us jumping and swinging around poles. He was, he was good. He was always into music, always loved singing, dancing. His name is Henry Dreyer,
Uh-huh.
and I'm looking more or less for religious music for him
Okay.
because he enjoys music and he always quoting the Bible. So I'd rather have that for him.
We first see Henry inert, maybe depressed, unresponsive, and almost unalive.
Henry,
Yeah.
Henry,
Yes, sir.
I found your music. You want your music now?
What is up to you? I
Okay,
mean,
let's try your music, okay? And then you tell me if it's too loud or not.
Then he is given an iPod containing, we know, his favorite music. And immediately he lights up. His face assumes expression. His eyes open wide. He starts to sing and to rock and to move his arms, and he's being animated by the music.
And he used to always sit on the unit with his head like this. He didn't really talk to much people. And then when I introduced the music to him, this is his reaction ever since.
The philosopher Kant once called music the quickening art, and Henry is being quickened. He's being brought to life.
yeah.
I'm going to take the music for 1 second, okay? Just to
Huh?
ask you a few questions. Okay? I'm going to give it back to you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The effect of this doesn't stop, because when the headphones are taken off, Henry, normally mute and virtually unable to answer the simplest yes or no questions, is quite voluble.
Henry,
Yeah.
do you like the iPod? Do you like the music you're hearing?
Yes.
Tell me about your music.
Well, I don't have one. I mean,
Do you like music?
yeah, I'm crazy about music. You play beautiful music, beautiful sound,
Did
beautiful.
you play music when you were did you like music when you were young?
Yes, yes, I went to big dances and things.
What was your favorite music when you were young?
Well, I guess, well, Cab Calloway was my number one band guy I like. They did the holy, the holly, the hilly, the holy, the milly, the holly, the ah.
What's your favorite Cab Calloway song?
Oh, I'll be home there for Christmas. Oh, you can count and plan on me with plenty of snow, mistletoe, present wrap around your tree. Ow!
So, in some sense, Henry is restored to himself. He has remembered who he is, and he's reacquired his identity for a while through the power of music.
What does music do to you?
It give me the feeling of love. No man, figure right now the world need to come into music, singing. You got beautiful music in, beautiful, oh, lovely. And I feel the band of love, dream. Lord came to me, made me holy. I'm a holy man. So he gave me this sound. I'll just say, I meet you. Let me see. Rosalie, won't you love me? Rosalie, won't you be sweet kind?
With this beautiful new technology, you can have all the music which is significant for you in something as big as a matchbox or whatever. And I think this may be very, very important in helping to animate, organize, and bring a sense of identity back to people who are out of it. Otherwise, music will bring them back into it, into their own personhood, their own memories, their own autobiographies.
I thought that was inspiring. Here's another one. Just kind of reminds me of kind of restoration that Jesus did and the hope for the future.
Wait a minute. I'm 65 years old. I have gone 65 years without seeing color.
Uh-huh.
And it is more of a big deal to you guys than it is to me. And I've seen these videos where people get emotional. And I'm not going to get emotional.
That's okay. I just want to see how well they work.
I have been a professional wrestler.
Wait, don't put them on yet.
I have been beat up by the biggest men in the world. I am not going to get emotional.
That's okay.
Right.
1, 2, 3.
All right. So what do you have to do?
Takes time to adjust, it says.
I don't know.
It's totally different.
That's green.
We'll have to get some of Harmony's books out. We'll have to do the colors.
Can you see this?
Red,
Yeah.
blue,
Yep.
purple.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, huh?
So when you showed her some pictures?
Hi, Miss Parker. How are you? I am so excited, Miss Parker.
It's so fun. There's this guy named Mark who collects all these old soundies, and he said you were listed in the documents as Miss Baker. Did that happen commonly, or? We have 3 of these. They're both all cooking brown.
Oh my God, yes you are. Yeah.
And that's you, right?
Yeah.
So were these shot in a real club, or was it like a? Do you have any memory of how many of these you did, or just so many of them that it blurs?
And there's so many different things. she goes.
Yeah, there she is.
That's her. Yeah.
That's you, right?
In the front, right?
In the front now, yeah.
Oh, there she goes.
Yeah, this right in front.
Right there.
Someone said they thought your nickname was Chicken Little. Was that your choice, or that just landed on you? I thought it was just because you were skinny or something.
Yeah.
That's what I had. Someone sent me this picture. I think that's you.
Yeah.
And for when I was given this book, I looked at the title and I thought, man, that's intimidating. You know, what do I know about the human genome? What do I know about genetic entropy? I knew a little bit about entropy, a little bit about genes, but I got to tell you, your book has been a revelation for me. And it's written from your perspective as a prof with a background in biology or botany or.
Well, my training was in agricultural research in genetics, and involved crop improvement. So breeding improved crop plants, and then later being involved in the genetic engineering of crop plants.
Right. So, and genetic engineering, of course, is still a kind of a bad code word out there in the world, right? I know countries in Africa, for instance, Zambia specifically, who won't allow genetically modified corn to come to their nation as much as they need it, because they're afraid that if they eat this corn, they're going to grow horns or something.
Right.
There is a stigma attached to it.
Yeah, I actually think that the engineering of crops is really crucial to feeding a hungry world, but I understand people's concerns, and I actually, since I really haven't been involved with it for over 10 years, I pretty much stepped back from that controversy. I guess I feel there's better, more urgent things to deal with.
Yeah, but in the process of this discipline and this work, you have an insight into the genome that is quite unique. Now, for the sake of people who've not encountered that word before, what does genome denote?
So the genome is all of our genetic material combined. So it's all the genes on all our chromosomes, and it's made up of approximately 3 billion letters, which is a vast amount of information. It's like many, many sets of encyclopedias. And it's basically an instruction manual on how to build a human cell and how to build a human body. Or actually, more accurately, it's less like a book than a computer program. It's like an operating system, but it's vastly superior to any operating system man has developed.
Yeah, there's nothing that we've come up with yet that can come close, right?
Nothing can come close. In fact, as every year we realize that it's more and more marvelous than we thought.
Now, was it you or another one of the scientists that I'm interviewing who said if you were to unravel our DNA and put these ladders end to end, it would go around the Earth something like 3.5 million times or something?
All the DNA in our body, that's true, but that's partly because we have so many cells in our body.
Yeah, what, 3 trillion or something?
I think over 100 trillion cells.
100 trillion?
Yes. But once you get into trillions, just to say there's many trillions is enough.
That's astonishing.
Yeah, so we are a galaxy of design and complexity and amazing functionality, but it's the genome that has all the information that enables that. So it's like the It's just an amazing information system.
How long has it been since the genome was fully mapped?
Well, the genome was largely completed around 2000, 2001. But they've been still actually filling in the gaps. There are still parts of the genome that have not yet been sequenced.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, have you had anything to do with the unraveling of the map? Have you been involved at all on that
No,
level?
I wasn't involved in the sequencing of the
Yeah.
genome, but I was very, very excited to see it develop.
Now, this happened right in the middle of your career, or maybe towards the end of your career.
Mhm.
As someone whose whole life has revolved around genetics, has this thing been a revelation to you, this genome?
Pretty much all the biologists and geneticists I know during the last 10 years, I think, have been awed by the complexity and the marvelous nature of the genome. When the genome was first unveiled, it was announced to be largely junk. And that was consistent with kind of the philosophy.
Junk DNA.
Junk DNA was a dominant concept. In 2007, the Encode Project was completed. That was phase 2 of the Genome Project. And the Encode Project was looking at functionality of the genome. And to everyone's surprise, this was a huge project. This involved hundreds of scientists and vast amounts of money, scientists from all over the world, to do the Encode Project, just like the Genome Project. What they found was that the genome is amazingly functional. And that over 90% of the genome is actively transcribed, and that doesn't, there's probably more, but we have to study more carefully to find the function of the remaining part of the genome. And more than that, the genome has multiple overlapping messages. Try to imagine a book in a chapter, and that embedded in that chapter, in addition to the obvious meaning of the words in the chapter, are other messages. And that even in the same sentences, there might be several messages embedded. And even more astounding is, the DNA has 2 strands, one running one way and one running the other. For the longest time, they thought the one strand was just for replication and all the information was on the other strand. Just one strand had information. What they found with the Encode Project was more than 50% of the genome, both strands are read. So it's like reading a sentence forward, so it has one meaning, and reading it backwards, and there's another message there. So it's data compression on the most sophisticated level.
Wow. And as you suggest in your book, there may be other aspects to data compression that have yet to be discovered, like almost several dimensions, or 3 or 4 dimensional, or whatever the case may be.
It is multidimensional, and one of the things that DNA does, it's like a tape with letters on it, and you can read it in a linear way, but it also folds up like origami, and you can make huge architectural structures that fill the genome. And we're just starting to understand that all that folding is like the folding of a protein, functional, and it carries information.
Now, this has got to be a challenge to the evolutionary worldview, where so much is credited to randomness and length of time and natural selection over billions of years. Are those who are deeply committed to the evolutionary perspective beginning to acknowledge that these discoveries, especially this Encode Project, is information that they hadn't had to process before, and it is impacting their worldview? Or are they saying, no, it's affirming our worldview?
I don't think anyone's saying it affirms their worldview, because it's becoming extremely problematic to explain how the genome could arise and how these multiple levels of overlapping information could arise. Since our best computer programmers can't even conceive of overlapping codes, what we're seeing is, and our best, the genome dwarfs all of the computer information technology that man has developed. So I think that, yes, it's very problematic to imagine how you could achieve that through random changes in the code. No one, even computer viruses are designed. And so there's not within all the programs of your computer, there's not a single 0 or 1 that's there by chance. And there's no junk DNA in these codes. Well, more and more the genome looks like a super set of programs. And it's very hard to imagine how that came together.
So God makes this incredibly complex and awe-inspiring genome for all these animals. And most of the religious world, or Christian and Jewish world, would say we have to suggest God had some sort of magical soul that animates the body or animates the life force of us. No, I do think that's the case, but I think it's designed in our bodies. But you could be the judge. Let's look at some more of the intricacies God seemed to design into the physical body. Like, why can't our consciousness arise within that paradigm?
They are actually red. That's what gives blood its color. And hemoglobin acts as a molecular sponge to soak up the oxygen in your lungs and then carry it to other parts of the body. I was very much inspired by this image many years ago, and I wondered whether we could use computer graphics to represent the molecular world. What would it look like? And that's how I really began. So let's begin. This is DNA in its classic double helix form, and it's from X-ray crystallography, so it's an accurate model of DNA. If we unwind the double helix and unzip the two strands, you see these things that look like teeth. Those are the letters of genetic code, the 25,000 genes you've got written in your DNA. This is what they typically talk about, the genetic code. This is what they're talking about. But I want to talk about a different aspect of DNA science, and that is the physical nature of DNA. And it's these two strands that run in opposite directions for reasons I can't go into right now, but they physically run in opposite directions, which creates a number of complications for your living cells, as you're about to see, most particularly when DNA is being copied. And so what I'm about to show you is an accurate representation of the actual DNA replication machine that's occurring right now inside your body, at least 2002 biology. So DNA is entering the production line from the left-hand side, and it hits this collection, this miniature biochemical machines that are pulling apart the DNA strand and making an exact copy. So DNA comes in and hits this blue donut-shaped structure, and it's ripped apart into its two strands. One strand can be copied directly, and it can be seen spooling off down to the bottom there. But things aren't so simple for the other strand because it must be copied backwards. So it's thrown out repeatedly in these loops and copied one section at a time, creating two new DNA molecules. Now, you have billions of this machine right now whirring the right way inside you, copying your DNA with exquisite fidelity. It's an accurate representation, and it's pretty much at the correct speed for what is occurring inside you. But I've left out error correction and a bunch of other things. This was work from a number of years ago. Thank you. This is work from a number of years ago, but what I want to show you next is updated science. It's updated technology. So again, we begin with DNA, and it's jiggling and wiggling there because of the surrounding supermolecules, which I've stripped away so you can see something. DNA is about 2 nanometers across, which is really quite tiny. But in each one of your cells, each strand of DNA is about 30 to 40 million nanometers long. So to keep the DNA organized, to regulate access to the genetic code, it's wrapped around these purple proteins. I've labeled them purple here. It's packaged up and bundled up. All of this field of view is a single strand of DNA. This huge package of DNA is called a chromosome, and we'll come back to chromosomes in a minute. We're pulling out, we're zooming out through a nuclear pore, which is sort of the gateway to this compartment that holds all the DNA called the nucleus. All of this field of view is about a semester's worth of biology, and I've got 7 minutes, so we're not going to be able to do that today. No, I'm being told no. This is the way a living cell looks down a light microscope, and it's been filmed under time lapse, which is why you can see it moving. The nuclear envelope breaks down. These sausage-shaped things are the chromosomes, and we'll focus on them. They go through this very striking motion that is focused on these little red spots. When the cell feels it's ready to go, it rips apart the chromosome. One set of DNA goes to one side, the other side gets the other set of DNA, identical copies of DNA, and then the cell splits down the middle. And again, you have billions of cells undergoing this process right now inside of you. Now we're going to rewind and just focus on the chromosomes and look at its structure and describe it. So again, here we are at that
I wonder if you're out there watching this and you believe in when you die, your spirit has an analog version of your physical form that goes somewhere, even though God said he took away the tree of life so that man could not live forever. But if you really just live forever in another realm, teleport there when you die, alive, you are alive there. When you imagine that bodiless version of yourself, do you imagine this stuff going on in your spirit analog version? What's the point? What is God gave us our minds to study the natural world that he made, and so we could learn about his glory. No need for these spirit analog versions.
At equator moment, the chromosomes line up, and if we isolate just one chromosome, we're going to pull it out and have a look at its structure. So this is one of the biggest molecular structures that you have, in at least as far as we've.
I guess I stand corrected. It looks like there is a spiritual analog to the DNA
discovered so far inside of us. So this is a single chromosome, and you have two strands of DNA in each chromosome. One is bundled up into one sausage, the other strand is bundled up into the other sausage. These things that look like whiskers that are sticking out from either side are the dynamic scaffolding of the cell. They're called microtubules, but name's not so important. But what we're going to focus on is this red region. I've labeled it red here, and it's the interface between the dynamic scaffolding and the chromosomes. It is obviously central to the movement of the chromosomes, but we have no idea really as to how it's achieving that movement. We've been studying this thing called the kinetic core for over 100 years with intense study, and we're still just beginning to discover what it's all about. It is made up of about 200 different types of proteins, thousands of proteins in total. It is a signal broadcasting system. It broadcasts through chemical signals, telling the rest of the cell when it's ready, when it feels that everything is aligned and ready to go for the separation of the chromosomes. It is able to couple onto the growing and shrinking microtubules. It's transiently, it's involved with the growing of the microtubules, and it's able to transiently couple onto them. It's also a tension sensing system. It's able to feel when the cell is ready, when the chromosome is correctly positioned. It's turning green here because it feels that everything is just right. And you'll see that there's one little last bit that's still remaining red, and it's walked away down the microtubules. That is the signal broadcasting system sending out the stop signal, and it's walked away. I mean, it's that mechanical. It's molecular clockwork. This is how you work at the molecular scale. So with a little bit of molecular eye candy, we've got kinesins, which are the orange ones. They're little molecular courier molecules walking one way. And here are the dynein. They're carrying that broadcasting system, and they've got their long legs so they can step around obstacles and so on. So again, this is all derived accurately from the science. The problem is we can't show it to you any other way. Exploring at the frontier of science, at the frontier of human understanding, is mind-blowing. Discovering this stuff is certainly a pleasurable incentive to work in science. But most medical researchers, this is just discovering this stuff is simply steps along the path to the big goals, which are to eradicate disease, to eliminate the suffering and the misery that disease causes, and to lift people out of poverty. Thank you.
Remember where your hope is. Dead people aren't alive.